You remember Isaac Adongo, the one who speaks on the state of the economy from 2019, 2020, 2021 up to 2022 had been given the signs and warnings which apparently he said were on the wall. Of course, after we play this instead of him, we'll also come back and then also get a swift rebuttal back in November from the central bank about this excessive on-lending or borrowing to the government of Ghana, being the central government. Let's take a recall.
And no matter how you shout, your minister only 2 days ago borrowed at 29.8%, and you are saying that people are taking interest at 23%, when your minister is borrowing at 29.8%, only yesterday. And when he was looking for 4.9 billion, he got only 1.1. The minister, as he's sitting here, he's confused as to how he get the money to pay them their money. And you're talking 1.1. So you are not even aware of what is happening in your economy. Mr. Speaker, I heard somebody say that the Bank of Ghana is giving overdraft and that the Bank of Ghana is not printing money. Why? Is the Bank of Ghana a deposit-taking institution? Is the Bank of Ghana raising money through deposit? The Bank of Ghana is obviously printing money and throwing at government. But what is worse is that, Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana Act makes it illegal for it to give money to government beyond 5% of the previous year's revenue. Some petroleum product 2 years ago could deliver a liter of petrol at 4 cedis 50 pesos. So essentially now the problem is not even about the taxes, it's about the exchange rate. And who is supposed to manage the exchange rate? It is the governor of the central bank, Dr. Addison. Another big problem we have now is inflation. And the Bank of Ghana manages the inflation targeting framework, whilst the Ghana Statistical Service reports actual inflation that has occurred. That was supposed to meet in other ways. In other words, Ghana entered a classroom to write an exam. We were supposed to write the exams in 3 years. In 3 years' time, we said we were not ready. We were given another 1 year to come and write the exam. We still said we were not ready. Then we wrote to the IMF to say that we want you to give us a waiver for non-observance of performance criteria. And the IMF says, go and say no more. Today, we are dealing with 22 billion Ghana cedis, an expansion of 53% in the public sector. Mr. Speaker, on the average, we are adding 21% to our public wage bill every year. Mr. Speaker, if this continues, by the year 2020, we will have doubled our wage bill that we left in 2016. Mr. Speaker, that is the height of indiscipline. That is the height of indiscipline. And yet, the finance minister says he is right-sizing government. How type of right-sizing? That you right-size to increase your wage bill by 63%. Mr. Speaker, that is a worrying sign for our country.
Now, you can see clearly, those seated alongside Isaac Adongo, you have the current General Secretary, Fifi Quid. So that was back in 2019. 2019, COVID had not hit. Russia had not gone to bomb Ukraine. Now, that speaks volumes about the warning signs that were on the wall prior to COVID. Also speaks volumes to whether the right decision was made to exit the IMF and whether the warning signs that, for example, Professor Lord Mensa, who is a regular on the show, had given that same year, 2019, that we could end up back at the IMF should be listened to. Now, let's take you through the act, and then I'll ask a question of Dr. Mahama. Now, in Section 30, as amended, of the BOG Act, the total loans, advances, purchases of treasury bills, etc., shall not at the time exceed 5% of the total revenue of the previous fiscal year. Now let's go to the next. What we have, based on its own report for 2022, viewers, is indicating we have these impairments of GOG security holdings from 2021. And the subsequent impairment of loans and advances granted at Quasar government also mounting to the amount you see on TV. In excess, we're having 6 billion in excess. The first one, 48 billion. If you remember, in June, or from March, April, May, June, Isaac Adongo, same person, had been warning that these advances, and he called them printing of money, he called the printing of money to the central bank was problematic, could reach levels which could impair the BOG, that is, take it to the ICU. Is that not what we've seen in, if you take a look at in 2023 now? The Bank of Ghana then decided to reply sharply, and I remember I read this on the show in November, that period. That was just last year. And it says the claims on government represent the stock of debts by the Bank of Ghana and reflect accumulated claims for, tacit explanations as to why we had all these on-lendings and what they call the printing of money, jeopardizing the state.